Hey everyone, welcome to the Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. We're broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in the beautiful city of New Orleans. Tonight, we will be welcoming Lynn Russell to the show. We will be discussing near-death experiences, so get yourselves ready, settle in for a really great segment. While you're at it, please pop over to YouTube and stop by the United Public Radio Network. Give them some love, subscribe, and that is where the chat room will be. So if you're going to look to interact or you have questions or comments, that's the only place that we're going to see them. So don't forget to do that. So here we are. Dun, dun, dun.
All posted.
Posted already? No, we're posting? Yeah. Okay, this is good because I'm actually going to go in and, oh, hey, Zach is in the chat room, ready for an awesome show tonight.
Oh, that's where I have to go. I really need to be on there on this part of us.
Yes, and I also have to copy the link because I need to email it to her. So why am I not seeing it?
Hold on. Hey, Zach. Yeah, I'm bad hair day. Just saying. It was funny that we did this whole lip thing in the beginning because I've been asked what shade of red I wear, which is really funny. And let me tell you something, because I think that anyone in Canada is going to be shocked to know this if you don't already. MAC makes a color that says, "I'm proud to be Canadian," and it's red. So, just saying, that's mostly what I'm wearing. But
oh my gosh,
yeah, can you believe they make a color called "I'm proud to be Canadian"? And it's the Canadian red, the red of the flag. That is the shade. So I go between that and Kat Von D. Kat Von D should be giving me money every time I mention her name. So should MAC. Seriously. But I go between those two and Kat Von D. So anyways, there you go. Have fun with the red lipstick. Right. Yeah. Crazy.
No, I don't endorse anybody to that degree. They have to pay me.
No, they do have to start paying. But I've been wearing these. I've been wearing I've had red lipstick since I was a kid. I've always, because my hair is naturally black. So I've always, leaned to the side of red or wine. And it's so funny because even my nephew and if you're listening, Jason, you'll get a kick out of this right now. Hi, Jason. Hi, Tanya. They would say, "Who's the girl with the red lips?" Because we're so close in age. We're only 11 years apart. And he'd be like, "That old lady, it's my aunt."
The old lady. That's that nice. Old lady. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
sure.
To him, I'm old, right?
So. Yeah, 11 years difference. It's ancient.
Yeah.
My God.
Isn't it?
So, yes.
By the way, buddy, you got a birthday coming up. You get a year older before I do.
My gosh. Well, I'm just glad like Wednesday night made it because I wasn't sure I was going to get through the first part of the week. It's just been like chaos and stupid and wow.
Yeah.
So,
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking. Yes. Got a really dear friend. He's actually been on our show before, Rob Duguay, and he spoke about phobias because he had this terrible phobia of clowns, and it is a real thing. And he came on to discuss it in the early days of the Outer Realm. And basically, Robert lost his youngest daughter to a horrific car accident yesterday morning. So,
yesterday.
Yeah. So we basically, are sending out our condolences to both families involved because there were two of them in the car and they were pronounced dead at the scene and somebody else in intensive care. And, a lot of people involved, and it was closed the highway down for an entire day. So just want to put that out there. When you are getting frustrated because traffic isn't moving and maybe it is closed down, just think that maybe somebody's day is about to drastically change, or life is about to drastically change. So, different perspective. I've always tried to look at it that way, as frustrated as it can be, because believe me, I am a road rage person and I can keep up with the best of them. But at the end of the day, it's happening for a reason, whether it's out of carelessness, whether it's out of just somebody else's negligence, maybe, issues with yeah, issues with the vehicle itself. There could be a multitude of reasons as to why. Let's don't always be quick to judge. So anyway, it happens, and that's the way it is. And thank you very much, Zach. So with that being said, on with the show, and yeah, tonight is going to be an amazing show. Always had an interest in near-death experiences. They're so similar to out-of-body experiences, and I myself didn't. I always say it's not enough to really write home about, but it was still a near-death experience. It just did it change me? I don't know. I was so young. I don't know that it did, with respects to
it may have, and you're not aware of it.
That's exactly it. It wasn't that profound. It was so fast for me, whereas some people get this whole big scene going on. Like, what?
Yeah.
Just like boom, boom, back, shit.
I know. For me, I've never, out of all the four that I'm aware of, I didn't come out of my body and look down. I never had that experience. So I wasn't even sure if it was an NDE, but we'll talk about that tonight, because there are certain indicators that they look for when they're researching these. Yes. Would you like me to introduce her?
I do. We've got a couple of minutes, so yeah, go for it.
Okay. With over 65 years of studying various religions and spiritual philosophies, which is very important with us, author of I just skipped ahead. Sorry. A world expert on near-death experiences, because I was so excited about her book. She has researched 2,500 cases for Dr. Jeffrey Long at NDERF, which is Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, with over 65 years of studying various religions and spiritual philosophies. Author of The Wonder of You, What the Near-Death Experience Tells You About Yourself, in second edition. Welcome, Lynn K. Russell, to the show.
Boom, 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 as we wait. So I think we're going to try to bring her on now.
Because we have a bit of a lag.
We do have a bit of a lag, so Joe's going to try to bring her on. And very excited about it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, like I said, it's just, I see he's trying. I see that it's just so, I have more and more people who, there she is. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Lynn?
I'm fabulous, thank you.
Oh, fantastic.
Hi, Lynn.
I love that.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on.
It's Amelia.
It's Amelia. I've been looking forward to speaking with you. Oh, you're not as delighted as I am.
Oh. So I don't even know where to start, because I was perusing your website, and it was just full of just so much amazing information. I guess where I always like to start to bring things up and bring people up to speed is your humble beginnings with respect to researching. How does one research 2,500 near-death experiences? What led you down that path?
Well, I started off because I was afraid of death. And so, excuse me, and so I, not with the near death, but this is as a child. And so I started when I was in my teens. I started studying all kinds of different religions to see what they had to say. And that was the beginning. But then I got interested in how they got to be the way they are, and how it evolved into what it was today. And then it turned to a search for truth, whatever that might be. And so that's been going on throughout my life. And then when I retired, about 16 years ago, Dr. Long, I was on NDERF, which is Near-Death Experience Research Foundation. And I was on the chat line there. And Dr. Long asked for someone to volunteer to do some research. So I said, fabulous. It was perfect timing. I was just retired. I had lots of time. So that's how it got going.
Wow.
How do you explain an NDE to someone that doesn't know what it is?
I'm sorry? Help me?
How would you explain what an NDE is for those who don't understand
I'm sorry.
What a near-death...
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, I didn't quite hear. Yeah,
We're on Skype, so there's probably
okay.
a bit of a lag for you.
Yeah.
Well, an NDE is a near-death experience, and what happens is the person dies, and it is a true death, and they have a death experience, and then for different reasons, they're usually because they haven't finished what they came here to do, they are sent back to finish, and so that's primarily what happens during the NDE can fluctuate quite a bit. But that's the crux of it, what an NDE is.
Thank you. With the 2,500 cases that you studied, did you find that there were more commonalities or differences between them?
Well, at the soul level, there were a lot of commonalities from the point of view. But each person creates their own experience, and no two death experiences are alike. And so that was, but then there are things like they go up through a tunnel, or they go, however they travel, because they don't all go through a tunnel, but tunnel is most common. So they go to the tunnel or wherever, and then they end up at the other side. They see their loved ones that have passed on before them. They may meet individual that are family members or close people of the family that they've never met in real life, and so they're able to go back and tell about that person. They also meet their guide, and the guide will give them a lot of information about where they are and how it works and that kind of thing. And then it's usually the guide that tells them it's time to leave. And common things are that they can travel by thought, that they can see in 360 degrees at once, that they communicate telepathically. Those kind of things are common.
And I'm only speaking because I went through this a few times, but also the colors. The colors are so vivid, and every sense is so captured. I had 3 consecutive NDEs after surgery, and it's funny because I said they pulled out the big guns on the last one. They had my mother send me back because I was refusing to leave. But there is that desire to not turn back. I was like, but I'm happy here. Like, this is really nice. Why would I go back? You don't have that attachment to anything you've left behind. You really don't. And I can speak from experience with all of them that, it definitely is true. But even you feel for your loved one, but not the way you feel when you're in front of the loved ones that have passed. It's that urgency to want to speak and be with them.
Yes. And some people will come back feeling bad about that because they think, what's wrong with me? How come I didn't care about my loved ones? But while they're there, you're right. They're just as happy not to come back.
Yes. I thought it was funny when my mother came the last time. It's like, you're going back. What?
Okay, Mom.
I better go. It was her birthday. And it was her birthday. So that really ties in with everything that I do. But I had the 3 NDEs on her birthday in recovery after surgery because I was given clindamycin and morphine, which I'm both allergic to, and fatally. And it was a human error. But anyways, that's what happened. But I'm not sad or angry. I'm grateful because I came back even stronger than when I went in. So I'm grateful for my experiences. Do you find that often with people?
Yes. They come back so changed. Their whole attitude towards themselves, towards their life, towards the world, other people, is just completely changed. They're like different people. And some people actually change their name because they feel so different.
Wow. I've never actually heard of that. Wow. New life, new beginning.
There hasn't been a lot of them, but there certainly have been some. One of the ones that stands out in my mind is a woman named Mira, Mira, and she had an absolute blow your mind. experience on the other side, and wrote about it. And then I don't know what her name was because it's a foreign name, but she changed it to Mira and gave away all her stuff. And she was wealthy before, and she just got rid of it all. And she lives a very simple life now.
Oh my God!
I wonder what her experience was like.
Well, I actually had somebody on the show, very similar experience about a month ago, actually, and said the same thing. She came back, she sold everything. She had a conversation. She said, she goes, I conversed with angels and my guides. I came back, purged everything. And she came from a really big house and, in the suburbs and like cars. And she goes, and now I just live on the bare minimum. I'm like, what propels somebody to do such a drastic change?
Well, and we here see material as so important. So when somebody does something like that, we wonder about them. And that causes problems with marriages too, of course, because one of the partners might be quite interested in getting and having nice stuff and all that.
Yeah.
And the person who's been through the near-death experience says, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And so
no more attachments, I guess.
Yeah, well, one of the things is like we are so attached to being physical, like physically being.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about the material things, just the physicality of ourselves. That when we go to the other side, we often take an ethereal body with us and see ourselves as physical still. And we see our loved ones, and we see gardens and buildings and, rivers and things like that. And there isn't any. It's all, it's not, it's just what we're making up.
I can totally understand that, because I think when people lose someone that they love and care about, even though everything, like for example, in my psyche tells me that the physical is just the physical and it's just a vehicle for the essence, the essence does move on. There's still some, and I know better because, I could see, the dead to a degree, and it's still hard. I still couldn't imagine losing somebody I really love, to not see them here in the physical way anymore, to not hug them, to not converse with them face to face in the way that we're accustomed to. Yes.
I lost a daughter not that long ago.
Oh,
well,
about
5 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Oh, that's okay. I was okay with it because of the experience, like all this knowledge. So I knew where she was. I knew that she was okay, and I knew someday I'd be with her. So that helped me.
That's what my cousin says. She lost a son a year ago to a tragic accident, and he was only 43. And she said, I was speaking with her today, and she said, I know that his soul is everlasting, and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
You miss them, but I know with my dad having buried 2 children, you learn to accept, and your faith and your belief gets you through it.
Yes. So
definitely. Have you ever had anybody fabricate a story?
Oh yeah, I've read a few that have. Because that's what I should explain how I did the research. How I did it was people would write or send in their experiences to NDERF, and they would answer 100 questions. I mean, there was a huge questionnaire answer, and then my job was to break up the questionnaire. How many people did this and how many people did that? And, how many people saw the light? How many people, went to a garden and so forth. And so that was my job. And so I read a lot of them. And I did read some that there were things that are universal with all NDEs. All NDEs have these universal elements. And sometimes I'd read them and just didn't feel right. And so I would discard them.
What led you to think like it doesn't feel right? What's a prerequisite, I guess? Like, what do you look for when you're researching? I know. What kind of prerequisite does it take to be authenticated?
Well, yeah,
besides a nurse's note in a file or a doctor's
Yes.
note, like in my case, which is in my medical file. But yeah.
Well, maybe.
Well, I think, I didn't do the medical file thing, so I didn't see that aspect. But it was things like fantasy. It would be more like a fantasy dream than a real NDE.
Okay.
Right.
You know, there would be claims that you knew didn't happen. That's just unless they made it up. Of course they could. I mean when they were there, because we create our own.
I could see the confusion. Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody realizes maybe that's what they're doing.
So much being out there. Yeah, with so much being out there on television of how a near-death experience looks like on paranormal shows and science shows.
Yeah.
You have this, just like, remember I said to you, Michelle, I go, well, I didn't step out of my body. And you said, well, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't look down and see my body. I just had a conversation with my mom, but I can see how they might understand that they had it, but really didn't. My concern is those who are wasting time and fabricating for attention, because that happens in all fields.
Yes, that does happen a lot, and a lot in certain. I'm sort of treading softly here.
No, that's okay.
Group of people.
Just go for the gusto. That's okay.
We're good.
That's all
There's
good.
certain groups of people that I get incensed by the messages that are coming back, because it doesn't go along with what their faith and belief says, and and in particular the life review, and so we get death experiences that are from those groups that go completely against what could possibly happen. It just is not possible. Like, for example, going to hell because you're bad, things like that. I mean, the people do put themselves in hell. So that's not, that it isn't, one isn't put there, because they misbehaved. They go there because they put themselves there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Because the death experience is created by ourselves.
That's mindset, essentially, is what you're saying. Like,
That's an excellent point, because we keep focusing on the light, but what about those who reach the dark? What are their stories like?
Well, I have read several of those as well, and every single one of them who finds themselves in a really bad or a hellish kind of experience will plead to get out of there. Like, they may put up with it for a while, but then pretty soon they're saying, let me out of here. And as soon as they ask to be taken out, they're out instantly. And then, so then they'll
we got to check on Charles Manson. We have to check on Manson.
Okay. So then they'll say to their guides that are there, what was that all about? And the guide repeatedly says the same thing. That is up to you. You created that. But there is no hell.
It's a perception or projection. It's not a real thing.
Yes, that's right.
Well then. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we don't have a lot of like loose cannons listening to the show tonight, thinking it's okay now to be totally rebellious. And
It's scary.
Well, let me give you a couple of examples.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. And let me give you a couple of examples of how people created their own. There was a fellow that was getting this exact same lesson. He was being told that he'd created and so on and so forth. So then the guide said to him, think of anything you want to think of it. And he thought of his mother's chocolate cake. And there it was before him. And he ate it.
Whoa. And no weight gain. I'd be like, chocolate.
Cheesecake. Cheesecake.
You can get that now. I can give it to you now. The cheesecake. But I love that.
And there's there's another lady that it was even more amazing. She was on the way to wherever, to the light, and she was in the tunnel, actually in the tunnel. And she said to herself, I'm making this up. I'm doing this. I'm creating this. So then she started thinking about all different places she wanted to put herself, and she would be there instantly. And it was exactly the same as real as this is here.
Wow. It's almost like having an out-of-body experience and traveling wherever you want to go.
Well, she did have a death experience after that. But first of all, the main point of that was that she created it. She just said, I want to be somewhere, and she was there, and it was real.
Wow.
Wow.
That's really, it's funny because it goes against most textbook stuff on near-death experiences. Down, it's just, you go up, rise above the body, look at yourself, you go off down the tunnel, see a loved one, they sort of give you a kick in the rump, send you back. It's just like, it's completely, it's completely different.
Yeah, I actually, I agree, but most of the material on the market are from people who have had one or three or four, experiences, but they haven't had thousands. So it really takes hundreds and hundreds before you start to see the differences and, all these lessons I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Do you find that people who are maybe psychic mediums on this side have different experiences when they've had an NDE?
Because we're already so opened up,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised I don't know the answer to that. That's a new one.
Me too.
I'm just curious because
leave it to Amelia to throw a zinger into the works.
Sorry. Well, it's only because I've experienced, because being a medium, I didn't find my experience to be any different than other people. In fact, I thought mine was less than what I've heard from other people. I thought mine was less than, and you would think that it would be more than, but I don't know if I'm just not remembering everything. So I mean, I had to be told what happened. I didn't know.
Yeah, I think that is possible that we forget a lot. I know that people know things, like they get all knowledge, but when they come back, it's gone. They also come back with talent that they never had before, abilities.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, I think, Amelia came back heightened, even more so.
Very heightened remote viewing, yes.
Yeah,
it was a very difficult thing to understand at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
I do remember having, I'm wondering if anyone had this experience. I did have a visitor during the night at the hospital that was not of this world. And I'm wondering if anyone else had any connections after their experiences, if they had spiritual connections afterwards.
Absolutely. Both people have had experiences with beings that are not of this world in this physical life, during, right after or before or during, some people are having an operation and watching the angels helping the doctors operate. Things like that.
Wow.
Or they may have a nurse or a doctor come in and talk to them and help them, and there's no such person on the staff.
That's what I had. I had a nurse, and she asked me to check on her daughter. She asked me where my daughter went to school. My daughter was young at the time in elementary school, and she asked me and gave me her name to look her up. But the nurse hadn't been on that floor in years. She had passed away, and I only knew that because a friend of mine works on that floor. So she was looking for a doctor. Yeah, and it was just insanity because it drove me crazy because she was checking my vitals. I was waking up. But yet I had a male nurse the whole night. I didn't have a female. So I had her name. She said, contact me. Let's get together. And she wrote her name and number on a piece of paper. And I'm like, no, she was here. And they're like, no, she passed away. She had cancer. And it just, I was just in awe because before then, everybody I had seen had been someone I had known. So for me, that experience was so real. I'm like, we're talking hours after waking up from my surgery. They weren't able to, I wasn't able to become conscious for 10 and a half hours. It wasn't, I was supposed to be awake an hour after surgery, and it took 10 and a half hours to wake me. I wasn't waking up. So, well, because of all the drugs, I was swollen. I had fevers, my blood pressure. I remember hearing the alarms go off. And I remember hearing the nurse talk, and she's like, how could you, if you were out, you were unconscious? I'm like, no, I specifically heard you calling the anesthesiologist, asking him if he gave me morphine.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, yes, it's in the IV.
Definitely.
I did hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
that's true.
But that nurse thing shocked me. At the time, oh, it's just because you're a medium and you're at the hospital and this is the floor she worked, so she's just naturally going to come to you. But I had her all night. Yet I had a male nurse the whole week I was there, the whole 3 days. Wow. I left early. I begged my doctor to leave early because there were too many voices. He knows what I do. He's like, go home, stay in bed. I said, it's a lot quieter there. I can sleep. I said, here, it's just so noisy. It's constant. And I can't control it because you're so drugged up. You can't control any of the communication. So, but thank you for that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, nice to know that alone. It's a good validation.
And the other thing is that it's not unusual for people to come back and have very strong psychic abilities, and one of them being that they can talk or communicate with the people who have passed. That's very common. Wow. It's very common to have psychic abilities. That it's not always the same psychic ability.
Mm-hmm. No, it's got to be very shocking and difficult for those who didn't have them prior, and then to come back and have those floodgates open must be really terrifying.
Well, it's just like an awakening, literally, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
It's exciting,
that is
though.
So
it's
exciting.
so fun.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's fun to know this stuff, to find out before we actually have to be there even. It's just wonderful, I think. The messages are great.
Have you yourself ever had one, Lynn?
Yes, I did, but it was so small that it was
just like Michelle.
It was smaller than yours.
I know.
Well, I thought mine were really short, but Michelle had one as well. So yours was quick. It was brief.
Yeah, much like yours. Tell me about yours.
Mine was. I was very, very sick, and actually, it was before anybody knew about NDEs, and so I just thought it was because of my high fever, and so I thought it was a hallucination or something. Anyway, I woke up, or I all of a sudden was awake, and I was in a tunnel, and there was a man with me, and we were both going up this tunnel, and while we're on our way, this big booming voice comes down, male, of course, because I'm making it, right? I'm creating this. But anyway, the voice comes down and says, take her back, it's not her time. And the guy with me says, but she died. And the voice said, take her back, she has much left to do. And that was it. I was back on my body.
Wow.
So it wasn't very big. It was pretty quick,
Well, at least you got to talk to somebody. In mine, it was just like,
I'm back here.
I know I'm underwater. I'm taking in water. It's very dark. I'm in with a lot of reeds. And I mean, next thing you know, I just off in the distance, I could see like a tiny little light. For me, I didn't think much of it. To me, it could have been the sun coming through the water for all I knew. Next thing you know, I got pulled up. I coughed up a bunch of water. I was like, where am I? And I realized where I was. And it was kind of like, all right. It's like no fanfare.
Saved. You were pulled out of it.
Yes. And it was just no fanfare, no nothing, But I'll tell you, at one point, I got very, very sick, and I ended up with an infection that set in behind my eyes, and I always wondered about this. The pain was just so intense, and the doctor came to the house, gave me medication. My babies were very little at the time, and probably on my third day I kept having a voice come to me and saying, you know, do you want this to stop? And, you know, and like it can, you know, you just want to come home. And I kept saying, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. And it wasn't until the 5th day of being asked every day. And I just said, no, I'm not leaving my children. And on that 5th day, all of a sudden, all the pain went away. No, it was so intense. I couldn't see, I couldn't hear.
For Michelle to say it was intense, she's got a high threshold for pain. It must have been really bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was always
bad.
coming in and out of consciousness. And it's just like, from that point on, it was just, that was probably the closest I've ever come to actually talking to somebody on the other side, or somebody coming forward to me, you know, to see, like, whether I stepped, you know, through the threshold or not. I have no recollection.
Yeah. Actually, that question is asked quite often. Do you want to stay?
Oh.
Not every, more people are sent back, but there are people who get that question asked.
Yeah, that was pretty major. But, you know, just kept seeing, like I said, my babies. I probably had one that was like 3 and 4 and 6. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to be a thing. I'll bear it. I'll grin and bear it. And came out of it. And then I'm just like, I want a Pop-Tart. So why? My husband at the time goes, of all things you want. It was weird because when I finally said, I just said, no matter how many times you ask me, the answer will always be no, I'm not leaving. And I came out of it within an hour. I got dressed. I went out for a walk. And I was just like, it was the weirdest thing. And had my Pop-Tart.
And your Pop-Tart.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just very strange. And I've never experienced pain like that, not even in childbirth. You know, feeling vulnerable, no vision, no hearing, coming, going. Just craziness, just craziness. But it's good to know that it's actually a thing that happens, because I was always a little bit curious about it. And you are the expert.
So, in all of the ones I've had, I've never been asked if I wanted to stay. I was always kicked out. I was starting to think I didn't deserve to be there.
Most often that's what happens. You don't get to stay.
It didn't feel like an NDE to me, though. To me, I'm still in my space. Beyond that, I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. That you haven't. Well, I do know that there are some people who have a very hard time readjusting to this world. You know, because it's just so different from where they were, and they know that this is not real, and that the other world is much more real than here, and so it's a hard adjustment. And they want so much to be there. I had one lady after I gave a talk to a group, and she came up to me and said, "I'm just marking time. I just don't want to be here," which was a shame.
I understand what she's saying, because when you come back, like you said, the readjustment, and you're on a different page than the rest of your family, including your spouse. It's a different page altogether. And I know I went through years of agony and torment with adjusting personalities and the way I came back. And there were times where I was angry that my mother sent me back, even though I did have a daughter here, and I knew I had to come back. You know, like, she needs a kidney transplant. I'm her donor. That's what keeps me here. But I believe that you come back with the gift of calmness and lack of fear of death as well. That's you true. Come back calmer. You come back, it's okay. And when there's a loss, you handle it differently as well in your life, which I'm grateful for. I find that as an extreme gift.
But do you think, Amelia, that if this happened to you again, or Lynn, same question, you know, if you go through all of that and you do come back, and when the time comes where you're not coming back, you know, is the experience going to be the same? Is it going to be considerably different? Because what about those that don't come back, Lynn?
Well, I don't know, because they didn't come back.
Right.
I can tell you what happened.
Theoretically.
I can, well, I can tell you what happens to people who are on the other side for long periods of time.
Okay.
And well, what happens with them is that they come to realize that they're not physical. that they are spirit. And they will, of course, everybody, well, not everybody, but very many people see the light. Excuse me. So, and they will see the light too, but all of a sudden they realize that they are a spark of light, that they're soul, that they're spirit, they're not physical beings. And so when they get to that level of understanding, they enter into the light. So then now some people enter into the light without going into that. They go immediately into the light. But that's different. That's not the same at all. These are people that have been there for a while, and they go through the physical part, and then now they're going through the spiritual part. And then when they enter into the light, they learn a great deal of deeper lessons. Like that is where the real deep lessons happen. And one of the deep lessons is that all that love that everybody raves about, that's where it's coming from. It's coming from the light. And that is the what do I call it? The power of the element, or whatever. That's the force that the source uses to create with, is this overwhelming love.
Wow.
So that's the creative
it's an
power.
incredible feeling. Yeah. It's hard to describe as well. And that's why I believe they sent in the big gun, so to speak, with my mom, because I got so much farther than the first 2 times.
Yeah.
I just kept going.
God.
And I think that's why they sent her, like, come on, you got to get her back because of my daughter. But once I give her my kidney, I'm good once I give her my kidney.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and then what happens, they watch creation happen, and then it's sort of like a fountain that never stops flowing. It just overflows and over, and all this creative energy is flowing out into the universe and creating everything. And of course, it's everything. It is literally everything. Okay, so the other thing that happens with these people is when they've been there for a little while, they start to melt. The personality that they were starts to melt away. They remember it. They know that they were that person, and they can remember their whole life. But the essence of their being becomes more light, and they become the light. And then when that happens, they participate in creation.
So there's no glitches on that side because it's all purity.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, I said there are no grudges. Like a lot of people think, oh my God, my mom passed away. What if she doesn't forgive me for this? And Michelle and I always say there isn't that doesn't exist on that side. So that's true.
Yeah.
Yes, and
that's good to know for a lot of people.
Right. That's a very important point for people to know, is that when they get on that other side, whatever problems you've had with others or issues are all gone. They're just instantly gone.
Wow.
And that's pretty well across the board. So that's cool to know too.
Do you have any
much so
documented cases where people go back, for an NDE? Do they come back, let's say, because you just say, well, you go over, they spend a certain amount of time and your identity starts to get wiped away. Have people gone over, for, like I said, just a quick NDE, come back with that issue, just a different person, but I mean, they don't know who they are?
No. The quick ones come back knowing who they are. But the people that have been there for long periods of time have a difficult time, even more difficult, to readjust to being a human being.
And what would you deem to be a typical, like, long periods of time? What's the longest period of time that they've gone and come back?
That's a wonderful question. I love that one.
Thank you.
This is what...
Every now and then I get one.
Once in a while.
This is what convinced me that NDEs are real. And I really think we need way, way more research on it, and nobody's paying attention. They're just turning their back and not thinking about it. But when a person dies, everything starts to break down, right?
Yeah.
There are people that wake up in the morgue, and they've been there for hours. Now, there are people who have been there 3 and 4 hours, and they wake up and it's okay. But some of them have waken up in the state of rigor mortis. And rigor mortis takes 12 to 14 hours to set in.
Oh, that's painful.
Wow.
Yes, it is painful. They all say how absolutely excruciating pain it was to get their blood to start moving again, because it's coagulated with the blood, so they have to make it move.
That's scary for those who have a fear of death to know that now, because a lot of people are they have that fear of being buried alive, so to speak.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, that doesn't happen today. That would the only time that would happen
because you're embalmed, you're done. But yeah.
Well, here it depends. I mean, there are religions that don't believe in embalming, and I guess they might have a possibility. But most people are here in the Western world are embalmed, so there's no problem with that. But
or cremated. So yeah.
Yeah, and I want to tell you the longest recorded. Now this one's recorded. I have heard some that have said they've been gone for 3 days, but this man was gone for 29 hours. And the story is that
you could be buried.
Yeah.
It's like,
what happened was
if they start embalming you right in the first 24 hours, you're done. They're in essence killing you somehow.
That wouldn't work. That wouldn't happen. I'll tell you why. Because you would get shoved back in your body instantly. As soon as there was you would just wind up in your body. You would never have that you would be embalmed. No. I mean, you wouldn't, it just wouldn't happen. Unless you were meant to be there.
So tell us about this person. Yeah, please.
Yes.
I don't remember his name, but he was a sailor in the United States Navy. And he was a diver. And he dove with he was doing a dive with a bunch of guys. And he accidentally got a poisoned coral embedded in his foot. And it just sent and so he went into shock right away. And so his buddies got him onto the ship, but he died. But for some reason, and I don't know why, that I haven't had a chance to talk to the doctor. The doctor, ship doctor, put an EEG machine on his head and turned it on. When he saw he was dead, he walked away. He just left it there. But he left it running. It was running for 29 hours, and this guy sat up.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Can you imagine? It was a good thing he wasn't in a body bag, because that's just like another horror film.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been some who have been in, the drawers that they put, some places put bodies, and they put them in a drawer.
Yes.
And there have been some drawers, people, 1 or 2 that have been in a drawer and have to bang,
Jeez, how
bang,
productive
bang.
in society would you be after that? Like coming back from that. Jeepers. It's like, oh my gosh. So
that's
this
hell
person,
on earth.
29 hours.
So I've just given everybody nightmares for tonight.
I'm thinking
no, not at all. It's you have to know both sides of it, because you know what scares me most, Lynn, is the film Flatliners. And I often make references to Hollywood because art imitates life and it comes from somewhere. Mm-hmm. Are there people out there who are purposely, scientifically flatlining to see where they go and being brought back?
Not to my knowledge. There may be that I don't know about, but because we've got some pretty crazies around, but so it's possible, but I don't know.
It could happen. No. Yeah. This man, after 29 hours, did he come back with recollection of who he was? Extra abilities? Really?
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing,
29 hours is a long time.
Sorry?
There's no oxygen going to the brain during that time. And yet they come back bright and alive and remember everything. And as a matter of fact, people who have had death experiences, you might be interested in this, they come back more intelligent. Their IQ level is much higher.
I should have checked mine. I came back more squirrely.
She came back more squirrely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She's like a squirrel. She distracts so easily.
Very easily, especially shiny things.
Yeah.
I believe it's a curse from the gift, though. I believe it's a curse from the gift because your eyes have to be on so many things at once. But that is crazy. 29 hours. Did he have any... what was his recollection like? Because an NDE feels like you're there for hours, even minutes. I can't imagine how long. He must have felt like he was gone a lifetime.
Yeah, there is no time or space on the other side.
No.
And
no.
So some people will feel like they've been gone forever and they've only been gone 15 minutes. Other people are gone for hours and they feel like they've only been maybe an hour and a half or something. So time doesn't make sense. It doesn't equate back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't at all. Especially when you add anesthesia to the mix. It's very confusing. Yeah.
So let's examine life reviews then. When people are going through this NDE, is there the truth to the life reviews?
Absolutely. The life review is a definite thing that most people go through. Not everyone, but a high percentage. And I think that it's the life review that makes them change so much when they come back, because they just are blown away by their actions. They think,
what have you done with what I've given you? Yeah, it's definitely a what have you done with what I've given you moment. It definitely is.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with how powerful you are, how rich you are, it's what you've done. That's exactly it. How
Not your religion. A lot of people would be shocked to hear that it has nothing to do with Christianity either. A lot of people would be shocked to hear that, because their faith, they believe that they have to atone when they're over there because of their faith or being raised Christian, but it's actually atonement because it's atonement, period.
Excuse me. Well, actually, I guess indirectly you sort of do recognize, I guess that's the word I want to use, because during the death and during the life review, you become the person you're dealing with. And if you've been kind and good, then you feel exactly what they felt. And if you've been unkind, then you feel exactly what they felt. So the retribution, I guess, is sort of there. I mean, it's not like hell and brimstone. It's just taking responsibility, I call it.
So is it self-judgment then?
Is it? I'm sorry.
Self-judgment. We're judging ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
More than being judged by a higher power.
There's no. All the judgment is done by ourselves to ourselves. And the other part of that is that if a person feels really, really bad about what they've done, the guides are still pouring all kinds of love, unconditional love at them. And they will just say, don't worry, it was just a learning experience.
Yeah, so, the old saying that we are really, essence or spirits on a human journey, having a human experience. It really is. Yes. We're having a human experience.
Yes.
Wow,
I'm just happy to hear that those 10 commandments, I don't know, X amount I broke on there, won't be in existence when I get there. I'm kidding. It's in a different way. But I'm just kidding, because I like to fluff feathers I am Roman Catholic, and I like to fluff feathers of the Catholics. But I like to ruffle feathers. Sorry, not fluff them, ruffle them a little bit. Because I always laugh and I say, Moses was on that mountain for a lot more than 10 commandments, right? Who picked those 10?
Jeepers.
Yeah.
They sound a lot man-made to me, but whatever.
Okay. Well,
But
actually,
yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
And the
I joke
could be
around
done.
with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I joke around with it because being raised that way and then going through an NDE, you come back with not a sense of that you have this, like, I call it Catholic guilt growing up. That was gone after I came back. It was spiritual. Everything was spiritual. It was still God, but it was different completely. It wasn't organized. It wasn't created. It was just, it is. I am. Those two words rang so true to me after that. The I am was so strong. Yes.
Yes. But I want to point out that you're fortunate because there are some people who see exactly what they've been taught. They see Jesus and
that would be different.
many Christians see Jesus. It isn't unusual at all.
No, it's not unusual to see Jesus, Mary, or any of them. Not unusual to see angels or apostles, whatever your beliefs.
Right.
But I mean, the judgment isn't there the way you believe it is, the way you were raised. That judgment is not that strong. It's not that fierce. It's more forgiving. It's ever loving.
These people all existed,
Absolutely.
so in one,
they're all historical.
we could all agree to disagree on, what to the degree, I guess. But so I could see why people would see them. But no, that's fascinating. But I guess if your mindset, you're born and raised a certain way, then it's what you expect, whether it's good, whether it's dark.
Children often see Jesus. Sorry about that. Children often see Jesus. When you see the stories, they always describe Jesus, and they could be from different parts of the world, and they describe him in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is also fascinating.
That's new to me because I think that it also depends on how they've been raised. Children who are raised Muslim or on the other side of the world, or atheists like me. When I was a kid, we were atheists.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would even know that was Jesus.
No, you're right about that. The Christians, but I should rephrase that. Christian children have always come where Jesus was the one, and then you're right. It's probably because it was taught. It is taught that Jesus
because we're
comes
dealing
to
mindsets again.
That's right. That's right.
So I have to ask you, how do physics fit into near-death experiences?
Oh, I'm really putting my foot in my mouth here.
No, it's okay. You're in good company. We do it all the time.
Yeah.
So, it's okay.
Well, I've had some scientists become very angry with me and blast me because of what you're not a scientist, you can't say those things. But I have studied science for almost 40 or maybe over 40 years.
Wow.
And
wow, you're a scientist.
Yes. No, I'm not. I couldn't do the math if you gave it to me. What I do is I study what they've learned.
Okay.
Okay, so there are some experiences, some research that have been done that I think are just mind-blowing. For one of them is that the particle, a single particle, reacts to our consciousness, our what we expect, our intentions, and it will do what we ask it to do. We don't deliberately say, would you please do such and such? But the fact that we are there with an intention in our mind or an expectation, and we're watching, it does what we want it to do. Because we've got an intention or we've got an expectation.
Right.
So that's pretty amazing. So there's some kind of a connection there.
Yes.
There's also studies with the brain. One of them, okay, back up a bit. The holographic universe, excuse me, my voice is giving out. Holographic universe.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to take a drink and see if I can get my voice.
That's okay.
Yeah. That's okay.
Okay. If it doesn't work, that's the way it is.
You sound sweet to me.
Yeah. um, well, all right. So the holographic universe, they had been black holes. People were fascinated when they discovered black holes, and they wanted to know what they were and what they did and how they worked and all that kind of thing. Well, a bunch of them tried to figure out what went into the black hole, what happened to the stuff when it went into the black hole. Mm-hmm. And so they started doing measurements, and they came up, shockingly, because it shocked them just as much, to realizing that the black hole was two-dimensional. It was not three-dimensional. And so then they did more studies, and it turns out the whole universe is two-dimensional, even though we experience it three-dimensional. So that's some pretty wild kind of things that are happening with quantum physics. There have been two major researches done, and one is called the Global Consciousness Project. And that was done in the late 90s through to 2015. So it just ended 25 years ago. No, five, I guess it's different. Anyway, 6 years now. Anyway, so that experiment went on for quite a while. And what it was the man who first started it and first began it realized that about this whole craziness of the behaviors of quantum particles. And he wanted to see if our thoughts had any effect on the atmosphere of the universe, about the world. And so what he did was he set up these computers all over the place that had a special program loaded. And then he just watched to see. And he had 100 computers around the world that were loaded with this program. And when really big things happened, there was a definite spike on the graph. And so he would see that our consciousness reacted to whatever that incident, like for example, Princess Diana's death, there was a big, huge spike for that. And 9/11, there was a huge spike for that. So those kind of things, there's these spikes happening with major world events. So that was pretty cool to know that our consciousness has an effect on the atmosphere of the world. Then the other one, and I love this one, is they found out, and it's pretty well known now, and people know about this, but they found out that there is a signal that comes into our minds between 4 to 10 seconds before we even know what we're going to react to. And that's been shown repeatedly. Repeated tests have shown that, when they show people a stimuli, before they even see the stimuli, their brain is already reacting. And so a signal of some sort. So we don't know most people, they don't know where the signal is coming from, but I think it's coming from the source because I think that's our connection to the source. And we repeatedly say we are a soul. We're not a body, we're a soul. And I think that's our connection. I think the soul that we are and the source have like a broadcast going back and forth.
Wow.
That's perpetually open. So those are some, not just physics, but experiments that have been going on there. I find very exciting.
Wow, it is. It's super exciting. I read something recently where science has basically finally confirmed, I guess, if you can confirm what a lot of us, already know, is that essence does go on after death. So I'm like, well, would you look at that? So,
right.
It's fascinating. So it basically is validating what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's just wonderful. I love that these things are opening up, and that we're starting to see, things from a different, more broad perspective. That's great.
Wow. Yeah,
I like.
think I like it. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Amelia.
what Tom Rivers wrote. Hi, Tom. We are one and the same as source. Only ego separates us.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly true. And so I think this is what I think. I think the universe is conscious. I think it's a conscious universe. We are connected with it, and we're also connected with the source. So it's like a big triangle because the source is connected to the universe. So I think that it's just a constant consciousness connection, I guess is the best word I can say.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's interesting because science is finally taking an interest. But, are they looking at NDEs? You feel that there should be more research done into this. I mean, it seems to me like 2,500 cases that you've researched. What do you think they're missing, or what do you think needs more attention?
I think they need to do some serious research on these very long, like anyone over a couple of hours to however many hours, but hours long. And they need to look and see because the doctors say that it's the brain breaking down, or it's it's the drugs or whatever. So I want them to explore that. I want them to, of course, anybody who's gone for hours, it isn't the brain breaking down. That's finished, okay? So there's no way that's what it is. And then,
right.
So what about the drugs? What kind of drugs did these people? Did they have all different kinds of drugs and they still had the same experience? Or another one is hallucinations. I mean, like, how long does a hallucination last?
Yeah.
So that's
exactly.
what I think.
Yeah.
You wrote about. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I want the research to speak to the doubters.
Right. And what do you think it would take? Go ahead, Amelia.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, She was asking you. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think it would take to do that?
Well, I think it would take going through their records, finding out what drugs they were given and what their issue was, and when they, like, why did they die, what happened? Because some people die in accidents and still come back in the morgue, So what was the cause of death? What kind of drugs did they get? How long were they gone? What kind of experience did they have? All of this put together so that we can go back to the brain breaking down and the hallucination kind of garbage, as far as I'm concerned, and verify it and say, look, here's the proof. It can't be.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you something, Lynn, personally?
Sure.
My first NDE, I believe I was in my teens. And I can tell you that every NDE I've had has been because of a drug allergy. And the doctors have known that I was allergic every single time. I had bands on my wrists and I was still given the drugs. That is bizarre for me. It's a little bizarre. Yeah. It's like somebody was interfering. I read also that there's a study of near-death experiences with vision in the blind and super normal vision. Yeah. What kind of cases did you come across? That must have been fascinating for them.
Yeah, it was. And what happened with them, or anybody, any disability, whatever that might be, whether it's hearing or blind or physical, it's gone instantly. As soon as they're out of the body, they don't have the issue anymore. So with the blind, yes, they do see things, because everyone who goes to the other side, everything is enhanced. The colors are enhanced. The all of our senses are enhanced, and so they have it. For them, they've never seen before, and all of a sudden, this enhanced world comes at them. They're just blown away. Yeah.
Wow. We have Sean G in the chat room, and he wrote, Chasing the Truth. Mine was lengthy and altered. My perceptions post NDE in a coma for 10 days.
Yes. So what is the question?
Well,
it was just a comment that he was in a coma for 10 days.
Okay.
His was lengthy, his NDE.
Yeah.
So here's a question.
People who have, you don't have to die to have an NDE. People who are in comas, people in comas often have NDE experiences. And then, what's his name? Eben Alexander is famous for that. He didn't do it. He didn't have a death experience. He was never died throughout it. He was still alive all the way through, but he was in a coma and he had an NDE experience. So that does happen for sure. Another time that people will have NDE experiences and not die is when they're so frightened. They just they're heading for a big crash and they're going to get killed, and
they jump
so
out.
they, and they will have they can have a full NDE experience and come back. Yeah,
wow.
It's called a fear. Yeah, it's called a fear death experience.
A fear death experience. I have never actually
remember that
heard
next
of
time
that.
they give me drugs that I'm allergic to.
That's actually
is crazy.
I would almost think if you don't die, that would be more of an out of body experience.
Well, no. Well, they go to the other side and they have all the experience. It's the same kind of experience. I'm not sure if they have a life review, but they certainly have. Visit the other side and see the gardens and you talk to spirit guides and see their loved ones. Those things do happen for them.
Wow.
So sometimes, and maybe they have a life review. That's quite possible too.
Yeah. But I know my first one, I was just unconscious. I was just unconscious the first time. I was not dead.
Uh-huh. And then?
No, I'm glad that you validated that. The first NDE I had, I was unconscious. I don't believe I was dead. I mean, I was on the floor and then I was in my room. It was quick.
Yeah. I don't know because I don't know enough about it. But the other thing about people with what was I talking about? I lost it. Oh, I wanted to give you some examples of near-death experiences. I call them miracles because they're just amazing. There was a couple of young fellows that were in a car, and there was a bus, and they were trying to pass this one car that was too slow for them, and there was a bus coming, and they didn't pay attention, or they thought the bus was over further or something, and they tried to pass, and they had, they realized they were going to have a head-on with this bus, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, they were at the stoplight down the street, and the bus was behind them. And so those kind of things. Mind you, those fellows didn't have a death experience. They just had an amazing experience, So those kind of things happen.
That's kind of mind blowing, actually.
Some in the alien field would say that they were removed and brought back. It depends on what your studies are. Yes.
That's crazy. Wow. That's crazy. So
there is one.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say there is one other area that I want to clear up because people get confused.
Please.
Is between OBEs or out of body experiences and NDEs. They're quite different.
Yes.
The difference is that an out of body experience, the body is still alive and it never did die. It's quite alive, and the blood is, everything's working, and so they're not dead. A death experience, they're dead. They actually stop breathing. All their organs break down and so on and so forth. So they have it, But the problem with getting information, and this is why the doubters think the way they do, because getting the information from a hospital is the absolute worst place, because when a person dies in a hospital, there's a crash cart there instantly to bring them back. So they only get to be dead for about 15 minutes, no, 3 or 4 minutes. And then, they're brought back, and there's no way that that's enough time to decide whether it's a real thing or not.
Right. No, I agree. Where I think, too, it can be a bit confusing because, for example, if you die in a car accident, the spirit leaves the body, and let's say they could get sent back, but the body is dead. There is no being sent back. Yet, when you can be gone for 29 hours, you are basically in the morgue. Your body has been in the morgue for just as long. You have no oxygen to the brain. They deem you dead because they're not getting a heartbeat. How is that different? Because I know I'm going to get asked, so I'm asking.
I don't have the answer. I just think it's. I think it's that their whole body starts up again, and they never lose their functioning, their brain functioning.
Like so to be allowed to go back into a dead body is essentially what they're allowed to do.
Yes, exactly.
Every time, because you are at death when you have it.
29
so it's every time you're going
hours.
back. That's fascinating and shocking. I agree.
Yeah.
No. But you have heard of people come back after a half hour, an hour, or in an ambulance after being pronounced dead for over an hour. Yeah. Sometimes, but there are some that come back with it.
Yeah, I have one story I love. This lady got hit by a car. So the ambulance came and got her. She was having a death experience, on the other side, but she was very aware of what was going on down here as well. And so the ambulance came and got her. And on the way to the hospital, the ambulance got into an accident of some sort. And they couldn't carry her the rest of the way. So a private car, or actually a van, took her the rest of the way to the hospital. At the time of the accident, the attendant that was in the ambulance with her in the back of the ambulance lost her ring. And she was very upset because that ring was very special to her. And so she really was. She looked and looked and looked and couldn't find the ring. So the next day, they were able to resuscitate this lady when they got her to the hospital. And so now she's recuperating, and the attendant comes to visit her. And she was able to tell the attendant where the ring was, exactly where to find it. Wow. She was able to tell them about the accident that happened on the way and the car or the van that took her the rest of the way to the hospital and who they were in the car or the vehicle.
That makes me look like I have no gifts whatsoever. Seriously. When somebody can do that is insane. I have two comments in the chat room, one being a comment and the other one being a question. First one from CC Champagne. I think that anyone lacking in one of their senses brings power to the rest of the senses. I also believe we don't leave until our time. Otherwise, how do you explain one person surviving a plane crash?
Mm-hmm.
Which is an excellent point.
Yes.
Pauline LeBlanc asks, when you have an OBE, out-of-body experience, and you find yourself in a different place, do you know how you got there?
Oh, well, let me take the first call, or the first question.
Sure.
Comment. So she said, what I wanted to explain is that each one of us sets our life ahead of time. Before we come here, we decide. Not every incident that happens, no. We do not, everything that happens is not meant to be. That's not true. But what is true is that we decide the main points, the big, big pieces, what race we're going to be, what country we're going to be, and things that are some things are going to happen. And so that's possible that a person who is in a car accident could have asked. That car accident is something that they needed in their life so that they could use it to learn and grow for some reason. It's always for the betterment of either the individual or the world.
Wow. That's fascinating. So the question
surviving a plane accident and being the only person, survivor's guilt is tremendous pain. Mm-hmm. That would take growth to overcome.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet if they realize that this is something that they needed, maybe it wasn't at the time of, I think it was though, but let me just be clear. I'm not being clear here. Before we come into our body, we decide on a task that we want to accomplish, and then we decide all the elements that will help us to attain that task in this existence. And so we don't know when we come here, we come back with amnesia. We have no idea if this is something that was meant to be or whether it was a fluke, because there are flukes. There are flukes. And sometimes people die and they're not supposed to die, but they are dead, they don't come back. And sometimes people get into an accident and something that it wasn't supposed to be. But generally it's already set. It's already there. It's been planned, and it's part of what that person is going to learn in this lifetime or share with others.
I'm pretty sure that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say it might be a lesson for others, and we're giving a lesson through what happens to us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I already put in that I'm not doing high school again, so they can't send me back. So, I'm done. Okay, I hit the honor roll last time. Let it go.
This going to slip into some adult's body. That's it.
Right? It's like, come on, enough already. I because I understand why I was so bored in school all the time, because I had done it so many times. It's like, enough already. And the out of body experience, in my experiences with the work we've done, usually people can control that. And there are some that are incredibly gifted that can control that and travel, and they are well aware of where they're going because they set that intention before they travel, which you also do with remote viewing as well. Okay. So what is your opinion on OBEs, Lynn?
Okay. OBEs are quite different from astral projection. OBEs are usually very spontaneous. The person doesn't plan it, doesn't even know it's going to happen, and all of a sudden they find themselves at the ceiling looking down at themselves. That's an OBE. It's just usually it's very quick, and it doesn't, the ones that the people have that you're talking about knowing things and doing things and going places, that's astral projection.
I had it wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And usually those people have taught themselves how to leave their body and lead and to know exactly where they're going and what they want to do while they're there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's right. There's the difference there. For sure.
We have another question from Zachman. I have one question. With the diverse amount of NDEs, does that mean there are multiple realms or dimensions in the afterlife? Why or why not?
I think it depends on our development and how far we have developed ourselves in this life. So if we've been completely wrapped up in money and job and kids and home and getting by and and no attention to spiritual or to religion or whatever, then I don't think those people would go to maybe a garden, and that's about as far as they go. But they would certainly come back pretty quickly. They would come into being reincarnated. pretty quickly because they haven't gained from this existence. They just existed. If they
that makes sense.
I've had that conversation with somebody close to me, and I have said, you can throw money as much as you want at a charity, but if your intention behind it is not to give it freely without recognition, then there is no point. Exactly. And I've said, and this person is very close to me in my life, and I have said that repeatedly. Yeah. I said, you're going to find yourself alone one day. And I don't mean in the physical world.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's very sad when when your attention is that important to materialism. I always say, I would call them newbie souls. Like they haven't been around enough times to understand that it's not important.
Mm. Yeah.
So my mother used to say to me, it doesn't matter. Sorry. My mother used to say to me, it doesn't matter how much you have, you'll always give away most of it. Yeah. And I think it's a great way to live.
That's true. And so when you die, you can't take it with you, right? But people who are spiritual, who are exploring, even if they don't get nirvana, but they still are interested in learning and growing and are sincere about it, then they would have a better or a deeper experience than a person who had never even looked at the books.
Right.
Thank you for saying that. I think it's important for some people to hear that, especially nowadays. We're in such a me world.
Yeah. I'm not sure I believe that anymore. And I'll tell you why. When I first wrote The Wonder of You, my book, the very first book, because it's in the second edition now, but the very first one, I went online to try and promote it all over the place, right? And I was shocked at how many beautiful spiritual people there are out there. But spiritual people are not in your face kind of people. They're not the squeaky wheels. They're the ones that are allowing, giving free will to others and saying, you go ahead and do your own thing, because, and as long as you're not hurting others, that's fine. And so spiritual people and people who are searching are much more kinder, I think.
Yes, I'd agree with you. There's no agendas.
Yeah. And I also, and I was absolutely blown away by the thousands and thousands of people, like millions of people out there. And there are millions of people just in the United States that have had death experiences. And we're just talking one country. And they're making a change in the world.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting comment, actually. So if you basically have, in this case, you have all these NDEs happening in one country, and you can physically see the difference in the changes within that space, that country, that actually speaks volumes about raising. It's a whole other, I guess, term to raising your vibrations. And
And when Trump was in, I repeatedly said, this is a catalyst toward further growth. And I think that's exactly what's happened.
Wow. They're going to get a lot of Trumpers out there messaging us.
It's okay. I felt a peace when he left office. I'm not going to lie. And whether he's in power or not, it doesn't affect me the way it affects someone who lives there, because we're in Canada. It's a little bit different. It does affect us to a degree, but not everyday life the way it does for them. But I spoke to a lot of people that I know and family members said they felt this peace when he was done. And it didn't matter who was in power now. It was all about his energy. It has nothing to do with what party he reflects or, represents. Sorry. Right. It has everything to do with the energy.
That's exactly right now. Yeah. Look at the energy that Biden is giving out. I mean, this is growth.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We need all the growth we can get. So
I keep putting you guys allow me to put my my foot in my mouth too often.
No. You're in good company.
No. It's all about expressing yourself. And
that's right. We do it all the time. You're in good company. It's all right.
I'm learning so much. I'm just so overwhelmed. I love it. I'm so happy for people who don't have sight in the physical world, who've had these experiences, that they've experienced sight. That's one of the ones that's just sticking with me. I have them all written down. I wrote down all 9 of them so that they stay embedded with me, because I'm so fascinated by all the different experiences. Now
go to NDERF, and there are literally thousands. I think there's 5,000 there now.
Wow.
I was on there. Yeah. I was on there this afternoon. Yes, I need to spend more time there. I really do. I'm so fascinated by it.
Yeah. They used to have a chat line, but it just got too overwhelming, and they just had to close it. It was just too much.
It's a lot.
Too much.
Well, I think it's a topic that fascinates a lot of people. People are naturally afraid of death. And it's, whether it's because religious, values have been instilled into them. And let's face it, there's, I've studied religions, and there are so many New Age, going back to ancients, and it is really embedded into your psyche. And then you get those who basically are just plain afraid. What have you done in your life? What to expect? The darkness. If they can't explain it, or they can't get an understanding of it, because it's so final, they don't realize that there really is more.
Well, the fellow who asked about the levels of the soul, where you go, one of the things that that is asked of those people who don't do anything is, what have you done with your life? And when they hear that question during their during their life review, they'll be asked that, and they immediately realize, I've done nothing. I've just wasted my life away. So then they come back. Yeah, then they come back with plans to do as much as they can.
Do you think it's because they've lost the fear, because they get a little bit of a glimpse of what to expect, and it's not all gloom and doom?
No, I think it's because they realize the essence of being here is how you are with others. That's the most important thing. And so that, I think, that drills through their brain.
Oh yeah,
for sure. What I didn't think of until now. Lynn, have you ever had cases where these NDE experiencers have come back with bits and pieces of past lives?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
I got 2 tonight.
It doesn't happen often.
No, because I know I didn't have that experience, so I was just curious. Do they come back with bits and pieces, remembering what happened?
Yes, they do. Wow. They come back remembering other lives. Yes, and some people actually have a life review that incorporates their last life.
Oh,
wow, that's interesting. That would mess you up, because if you had no recollection, like, I'm fortunate because I have some recollections and information of past lives, so I could probably go through and at least have an understanding of it. But what about those people who have zero understanding about where they came from? Why would they be given that as part of a life review? Is it something to move forward with, or what moves them?
Now it might. I mean, this is a guess, but it makes sense to me. Okay. I think it could be that they that when you're on the other side, first of all, reincarnation isn't given. They just you just know that it's real. It's not something that. But I also wonder if they're one of the people that goofed off on their last life, and so they come back to accomplish their goal, whatever it was, and so they incorporated it because they blend into each other. Does that make sense?
That's a great point.
It's a good point for sure. I guess it depends how far back you go. If you get one life blending into another because you haven't maybe completely purged it. But what about those lives that go way back? Is it because those little bits and pieces just stay with us, even though like it's supposed to be all wiped clean, which is like a really cruel joke, by the way, just saying. You're supposed to come back and get it right or fix things, and you have no recollection of where you messed up. It's like, who thought that was a good idea? I don't think it's a good idea. No. So, about those past lives, are we just keeping little bits and pieces with us in our essence, maybe to little reminders, like you need to work on this, or this was one of your strengths, or
No. No, that
That's not fair.
How seemed like a good idea.
That's not fair, because you hear people carry fear with them through other lives, like fear of drowning, fear of fires.
Because maybe they had a fire, that sort of thing.
But when you're, when you're on the other side and you get glimpses of past lives, it's just, kind of thing. It doesn't have any, like I'm talking big, like ancient, like some people remember being, around in the Roman days and that kind of stuff, where, so, even Jesus, maybe before even. So there are people but they just get quick little glimpses. It doesn't have any significance for them. They just know, I did that. It's like a memory. I went to the store. It doesn't have any.
And some of us take it extremely seriously. Okay, just putting that out there.
Some of us have severe experiences that stay with them. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, it does. It leads to like a separation anxiety almost. It's almost crazy.
The ones that have real significance are the ones of the last life. The people who remember their last life, then it could be very significant because, as I say, it ties in with this life.
You're right, maybe.
In some way.
I don't remember my last one. I guess I remember some of the ones before, but I don't. For some reason, I don't have any recollection of that one.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's different. Go ahead, Amelia.
Cece asks, thank you. Cece asks, if we remember and carry true love of another from a past life, how could we give ourselves fully in this life? I think sometimes that could be the lesson, though.
That would be very difficult because love is such a strong emotion.
Yeah. What happened? Let me tell you some stories of reincarnation. And normally, children who remember their past life, they remember the past life around 2 years old. They start talking about it because that's when they start to get control of language and they can speak. So then from 2 to 7, it starts. Yeah. So about 6, 7, it starts to fade away and it's gone. During that 5 years, those children are impossible. They are horrible. I wouldn't want to be parents of them. They demand to go back to their real family, and this isn't the real.
My.
Wow.
Why am I here?
Angry.
It's too strong. It's too strong of an attachment.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. And I believe that we don't remember, or most of us don't remember our past life because it would interfere with how we deal with this life. We wouldn't, if we remembered everything about our past life, we would have a very hard time being who we are in this life.
I completely agree with you on that. I think it's why we don't remember our loves, our losses, because you're right. It would be, I think maybe it's what, how you feel like you have a void within yourself and you just don't know how to fill that void. Maybe it is a love or a loss, someone that didn't come back with you, or trying to remember, what's here, what's missing.
Yeah. Now, if they have parents, these children have parents who are open to it, and they take their child to their past family. By the way, they remember everything. They'll tell them, that's my wife, that's my son, this is my, they know everything that's changed, and they know everything about those other lives. And when that happens, that they go there, then they connect and they realize, oh, now I'm in a different life. Then they can continue on, and then they're more reasonable. You can talk to them. But if they don't get,
and it's funny because people always say, well, how can you prove it? Let me tell you a story. My nephew started at 2 years old with the facts and the manifesto and the number of how many women and children and men were on the Titanic at the age of 2 and 3. Where would a child get this information? And people say, oh, it's the Titanic, you're making up. No, I ain't making up anything. I'm using the word ain't. Please don't write to him seriously. It's just a slang joke here. I ain't gonna. But I honestly, when he was speaking of it, and we were all aghast, was like, what? How does this child even, it's not the time of the internet because he's in his 30s now. It wasn't the times of the internet. He was 2, 3 years old. It lasted till he was about 5. But this fascination with the Titanic started again when he was in school, and he came across it for a project. And he used to tell us the names of the crew, what happened, what time it went down, what really happened. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to know what was going on in that ship, and the anguish that he felt as a child. He believed he was the captain of this ship. He honestly believed it. And we had to constantly reassure him that he wasn't and that he was safe. And he kept saying, it's my fault all these people died. It's my fault, Auntie Amy. And I'm like, no, it's not. You're 3, and it was tough. So that's my only experience with a child who has, I want to say, they're regressing in life, with that past life. They're literally living this regression day after day. And
that's a huge burden
for
to
a small
take.
child.
Just
it's a huge burden. And
that's going to come
we
through
knew
with
that
you.
Some people would think we were nuts, but we knew he wasn't because he was giving us stats we could look up. This was something we had to go to the library for. There was no internet when he was 3. There was nothing. He's in his mid-30s. So it's
how
just
is
shocking.
He now about that?
He loves everything to do with the Titanic. It's more of a history thing with him. He doesn't feel the anguish like he did as a child.
Good.
He can tell you the facts. He can tell you what happened, but I know that he's had a tough life because of it. I do know that. It's held him back in some ways. No, and I adore him, and I will never forget the shock on my mom's face when he was just spitting out this information.
So then,
and we're just like, you're 3.
So then, because of that guilt, Lynn, do you think that just embedded itself? Because that's a big weight to carry, like that amount of loss of life, if you're blaming yourself.
Yeah, it could. It could certainly. Yes, it definitely could, and he could bring it back. That's true. There are a number of not that kind of story, though. That's pretty dramatic. So the poor guy.
I've never heard anything like that. Never. And it was heartbreaking to watch because I didn't know what to do or say to him. My brother didn't know what to do. It's his son. He's like, I don't know what to say to him. I don't know how he knows this stuff. It was just shocking.
Yeah, and that's about right. But that's how it comes out. That's exactly how a child that is having remembering their last life. That's how you're describing exactly what happens with them. They just
and at the time, the
about
film they hadn't even done the film yet. At the time, James Cameron hadn't come out with the film yet. I know that when the film came out, he was addictive. It was crazy. It was like watching it over and over and over again and making corrections. But when he was small, it was horrifying to watch because you couldn't comfort him.
Wow, amazing.
I know.
Too bad he wasn't used as a. Pardon? I was just saying it's too bad he wasn't used as a consultant.
Then. Yeah. I wish I knew more then so I could help him like I do now. But I know if it had happened now, we would probably dismiss it as, oh, he's on the internet. Oh, the movie's out. Or, he heard a conversation. But I mean, at the time, it wasn't like that. Now we dismiss a lot with the internet.
No. But that wouldn't be a 2-year-old.
No, it went on for a few years. It was devastating.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Lynn. Pardon?
Go ahead, Lynn. You were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say that there are some wonderful books out on reincarnation. If you're interested, there's one that I'm struggling with the exact title, and it's Ian Stevenson. I don't know if you've heard the name, but he was a PhD doctor at Princeton, and he did a major study on his whole career was on reincarnation, and so he's written tons and tons. But there's one that is called 20 Cases Suggestive of Near-Death Experiences, and then there's another one that is called I Saw the Light and Came Here, and that's a couple of professors, and they looked at it from a scientific point of view. All of these books I'm talking about are very scientific. Mm-hmm. And there's also one that's not scientific, but it's cool, is one called The Boy Who Knew Too Much.
I've actually heard about that one.
I've heard that title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a little boy, I don't know, 3 years old, I think, and he started talking that he was Babe Ruth at one time. So it's fascinating. And he knew information that nobody else knew about Babe Ruth.
Wow.
Yeah, so, you might want to look those up.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's fascinating. You get stories from all walks of life, and I do, believe in reincarnation. There's so many ancient accounts of it. So it's definitely a thing. People have been talking about even dying and coming back. I mean, this isn't something new either. I think it's just something that's, even in this day and age, not a lot of people document. I think a lot of people confuse a lot of this. Yeah. So are you planning on continuing your research and writing another book? Are you calling it just tired, or what are you going to do? Yeah, what's next for you?
Actually, I've published the 2 books. Now I've just written a book on science and spirituality. I've called it Your Quantum Consciousness, but it doesn't have a publisher yet. So it probably won't be like a couple of years before it's out. But I also have just sold a children's book, and it's done. And it's going to come out in about 6 months or so, and it's called Warple, Worpple.
Oh, wow.
And
I love that.
Warple.
Wow,
I love that.
So,
oh my gosh, I'll have to look for that.
Are you still taking, if people have near-death experiences they want to discuss, are you still documenting this? Are you looking to maybe, you're done this whole level, you're done this leg of your journey, I guess?
Yeah, that leg is finished. So now I'm, going on to, and my next book is going to be my biography, because I'm 82, so, I better get it down before I'm not here anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I think it's great. Yeah, lots of time indeed. I think that's awesome. So how can people find you? Because we're nearing the end of the show, and how can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Okay.
Buy your book?
My book is The Wonder of You, What the Near-Death Experience Tells You About Yourself. And it's presently in the 2nd edition, and Amazon and Barnes and Noble and those kind of people. So it's around. And then I'm on Twitter, ArtSoul2. I'm on Facebook, And you can look up my book, but you can also look me up. It's just Lynn Russell in Lethbridge. And where else am I? Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm there. And I have a website, and my website is lynnKrussell.com. Really confusing.
I just shared that. I just shared that for you. And also the Barnes and Noble link for your book as well. I just shared your website on our page so that people can look it up on the Outer Realm Facebook page and see how to get your books and to read more about you. You are so fascinating, my darling. You are amazing. Thank you for all the knowledge that you shared with us. I've learned so much. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, and I will
thank you. It's been a delight.
Oh, I'm thrilled that you joined us, and I know we've chatted a little bit back and forth, and I'm glad that you had a good time. I will send you a link to the archive also, so you can post it and have a good listen to it, and maybe we can, once you get your other book all up and running. I think it sounds fascinating. I'd love to delve into the whole quantums of the whole NDE thing or life in general. So maybe we can do this again sometime. It would be a pleasure.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I'd love to.
Oh, perfect. Then I will be in touch. So thank you for joining us.
Okay. It was wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you. Oh, what a doll.
Well, we have come to another end of another awesome segment here on the Outer Realm, and we thank everybody who has been in the chat room. My gosh, it's been awesome and really busy in there. And a big special thank you to Lynn, who's just breath of fresh air. I just love her. And of course to Joe, who's taking care of things behind the scenes, kind of like the Wizard of Oz, just working things from behind the scenes. So please remember to stop by the United Public Radio YouTube channel and subscribe so you don't miss anything else. And join us tomorrow night as we welcome Elliot Van Dusen. Whoa, it's going to be a good Paratalk night. So you definitely want to make sure that you are tuned in. So thank you, and we will see you tomorrow night. Have a good night, everyone. Or not.
Does it on purpose. He does it on purpose. It's like I adopted another brother. My allergies. I'm allergic to my makeup. Just saying if anybody can hear.
Everybody's all listening in. So good interaction in the chat room, guys, since we are still actually
You're amazing.
We're still live. Yeah. So a lot of really great comments. Anybody else have any last minute question? I know I'm still alive. I know I'm still getting.
I have a question. Joe, you snoring? You snoring, Joe?
Joe.
You know what? I think we had 5 more minutes. He started us a little bit.
Yeah, we're right at 11 p.m. But I think it's just great. There's a lot of people that have touched base. Was nice to see Sean in there too. That was really nice. From Chasing the Truth, guys. He's a colleague here on the United Public Radio Network. So tune into his show. And I think he's always got some really interesting topic. Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Awesome. So it's nice to see, our regular Zach Man. Yeah. We had Wayne stopped in there. Pauline stopped in there. That's Mumsy, just so you know. So.
Oh, hi, Mom. I didn't know. I was going to tell her, man, you have a lot of great questions.
You guys are amazing. Thank you. So it's awesome. And wow, we had a lot of people show up. So this is really great. Oh yeah, and look at Joe sneaking in there too at the very beginning. Oh yeah. So tomorrow night's going to be great. Also, paranormal talk. I know. I know. I love it. I think that there's such a good lineup coming up. I just sit here and look at what's coming up even next month. We've got great guests. We've got Daryl Sims coming back. I love him, the alien hunter. Vicki Monroe.
Yes.
Everybody Google Vicki Monroe. You guys are going to love her. Bill Bean, Steve Burgess, David Weatherly is also going to be back. And Fritz Zimmerman is going to be back. Jeffrey Silman's coming. And of course, the Relic Hunters. For those of you guys who have been watching on Discovery Channel and all over the world, because season 1 has been playing for a while right now. They are filming season 2. They are going to be doing their first segment, and they are booked for 7. And they're going to be discussing the lost relics of the Knights Templar. I call them Relic Hunters, but they're actually, the show is called The Lost Relics of the Knights Templar. And you got to watch this if you guys haven't seen it yet.
Air, Michelle?
It's been on Discovery Channel.
Is it American?
It's actually aired initially in England, and right now it's in Portugal. And of course, it's been on Discovery Channel in the US, and I have American television. And I have to tell you, it's like, this is a horde of relics that have never been seen before, that I always say, man, like the world, these pieces should be in a museum. And I can't get into a whole much more than that. That's up to them, to share any information that they choose to share. But these are pieces that are mind-blowing, and they do such an amazing job of it. Oh yeah, you have to go find it. Maybe you could catch it online. I'm going to try to share some stuff up, but it's just, the world has never seen anything like that. It's so hard to find like real artifacts. You see a lot of carvings, you see a lot of, castles, and you see a lot of churches and cathedrals, but to find things that could be used in, ceremonies or things that were really relevant, they do such a fascinating job of researching it, taking it to experts, going to points of origin. Mind-blowing. I mean, it hooked me almost immediately. Yeah, hooked me immediately. So they have agreed to come on and do 7 segments. And of course, the guys I'm always saying, the Relic Hunters, but it's Carl Cookson and Hamilton White. And they are just, fascinating guys and knowledgeable. They're a lot of fun. And I'm really hoping they'll do a sort of show and tell thing. So if you've seen it in season 1, I'm hoping they're going to bring it on and sort of share it up and say, hey, if you have any questions about it, or here's what we didn't get to cover. So that's still in the works. I've sort of put that into their ball field and saying, how would you guys like
passion.
To? There's just a whole lot.
How they came about that. It's interesting. I can't wait to have them on. It's rings close to home, so it's nice.
And a spin-off of this, I've had other people contact me because I've mentioned this and I've promoted them. So there's going to be a lot coming that sort of even caught me by surprise, because there's a lot of people who message and say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this or this or this? And there will be more spinning off of even like the Templar thing. And of course, we've had, Kathleen Ann Ball on with her, Templar discovery in Brazil. There's just a whole lot of stuff going on. And I'll tell you, we are booked solid, right? I mean, with a couple of gaps here and there, all the way into like June. And we're still
actually, you have a couple in December that you booked.
I'm looking here, and I've got booked in every month. Just saying. So
yes,
I'm enthusiastic. I'm just gonna say I'm very enthusiastic. Somebody messages me, and sometimes they have so much content. You just you're not getting it done in 2 hours, right?
No, even with Lynn, there's so much more than just NDEs. The whole reincarnation thing, and I didn't realize, and I work in this field, and I didn't realize OBE and astral are 2 different things.
Yes.
I always associated them as the same, so like there was just so much knowledge there, and she just shared so much. And I know I hogged her, but I love her.
I know.
I just love her.
The woman is 82 years old, sharp as a tack, knows her stuff. And, I followed her, and I'm like, I was just so fascinated by what she had to say and the things she was posting. And I'm like, I need to book this girl, this lady. And I'll tell you something, like I booked her months ago, and it was just Wow.
I remember when you told me I've got an NDE expert on. You're going to love this. I love all the guests you book, but this comes close to my heart because of the experiences. But I didn't know that an NDE could be that you're having this experience, but you haven't actually passed away like the first one.
No.
You know, I don't think I did. I mean, I was in a hallway. So I just find it ironic that every single time it had to do with drugs. I just thought that was.
And I thought that was interesting that she brought that up. And, you know, thinking that there needs to be more research. And here you're giving her, well, yeah, hey, you know, this is
there's an intervention here.
Yeah,
yes.
for sure. For sure. It is.
Yeah.
So still waiting on Joe. So we're just like having a parlay while we're waiting.
Joe's having chocolate cake somewhere.
I know, but I want to go have chocolate cake too. I'm on air. Amelia, pass me a piece of chocolate cake.
I wish I had some, but unfortunately, my sugar levels don't permit it. But
I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So
I'd show you what's on my desk, but I require a sponsorship from them for me to show it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not going to show you what's on my desk.
We want the sponsorship, yeah, for sure.
We're waiting on one, so I'm not going to show anything until that goes through. But yeah, but anyways, then I'll share products. But
yeah, then we can talk.
Yeah, it's it's exciting. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Of course, I always enjoy being on the show with you because I can see your face, because otherwise I can't see you, and I'm used to seeing you twice a week, and this is killing me. But anyways, it's only been a year.
I know. I was going to say, like, you guys have to understand, we came from doing this in an actual studio. So we were in a radio studio station doing this, where we got to sit side by side, hang out, be social, do the show, and still be social after that for a bit. And
sometimes we had French fries.
and then yeah, exactly. Or Amelia would just bring me leftovers, which is like phenomenal. So, now,
I would always bring food if I was cook. Well, I cook every day, but yeah, I would bring. Yeah.
Right. See,
you're
so
easy to please,
I'm
though.
the one missing out the most here, actually, now that you mention it.
You're so easy to please. It doesn't matter what I bring. It's like, you just love it. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I'll cook for you every day.
So at the end of the day, okay, it's determined that I'm the one that's missing out the most. I am. Never mind. I didn't bring you food. I brought pizza once in a while. So, but
are you kidding me? Pizza, donuts, coffee. I think I
that's
gained the
Wayne,
most
though.
weight
That's
those
Wayne.
first 2 months. Wayne with his donuts.
Wayne would bring the donuts
and the stuffed crust pizza. He would bring us pizza, and we were facing the road with a big, huge storefront window. So he'd come and he would show us the pizza. I'm like,
we couldn't really eat. No, it's like we couldn't really do that.
That was nice to see people on the street. Was really nice too.
I sort of miss that. But you know what? The sound's 100 times better. And this house has walls that are like 3 feet thick. So I'm all kind of like cocooned in here, blocking out some sound.
Less the 40-minute drive for me is great.
Yeah, there you go.
Only in the winter, because in the summer I love the drive. Just open the roof and go. But in the winter, it's like, oh my God, do you know what Niagara looks like during the winter? You have no idea the peril that you go through from one stretch of the highway to the other, and it's just a small stretch, and you can't see anything right before you.
It's brutal because we're right beside the lake
and it's clear.
And the river.
Yeah, well, the river and the falls.
Yes.
So there's a lot of Niagara Falls effects now, and there's a lot of other weird things going on in Niagara.
It's true. No, I know. I'm just letting know that, we've officially
like 10 minutes ago, Joe.
Yeah. And 10 minutes still yakking. So, so note to self, producer. I'm just trying to spell yattering. And of course, the phone will not work with me when I say yattering. It's going, what is that word, yattering? So sadly, it's very sad that,